Uh, I haven't done too many Zoom meetings, so hopefully all good and prepared and everything. But yeah, it should be fun.
Oh, right on. Yeah, this is all pretty much improvised. We have a lot of questions for you, but first of all, I think I've given you a pretty extensive um, introduction with a whole lot of videos we've been watching, including last week and then earlier today. But you're a professional musician and a drummer by trade, as you might notice by the crazy amount of shells and skins back there.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty much a crazy drum house over here, but yeah.
so they've heard what I have to say about you, but why don't you take like 2 minutes and tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been, I guess, playing drums for quite a long time. I started, my dad was a drummer, and growing up, he had a drum set like in a storage closet in the house. It's actually this drum set right here, this kind of black diamond finish one. And as a kid, I was played that, and I joined a band with some friends in elementary school and kind of got going that way. From there, I just fell in love with the drums. I'd played other instruments before that, like piano and saxophone, and I like those too. But I just felt an immediate connection to the drums. So from then on, it was kind of that was my biggest focus, probably in my life. It was kind of my hobby and my passion. So I did, jazz band in high school, concert band, any opportunity to play. I was trying to learn and get better. And then from there, I eventually went to Grant MacEwan. It was then a college. It's a university now. It's in Edmonton. So I did the music program there, which was a 2-year diploma program at the time. And while I was in school, I was still learning and playing, taking lessons. I moved back to Saskatoon after graduating from MacEwan, and slowly started networking with musicians and musicians in Saskatoon. And from there, it kind of grew. Like you end up playing with one person, and they tell you about they mention you to someone else, and then they ask you to play drums for them, and then it just kind of branches out from there. And it was around that time I also started getting into teaching drums too. So I started teaching at a music school here in Saskatoon, and started kind of building a bit of what would turn into my teaching business that I have at home now. And that's what I do now. I teach. I have about 20 to 25 students throughout the week, and I play gigs on top of that. And I also have a recording setup, which kind of over the pandemic has kind of been growing more and more as people are stuck at home. So I have a drum set over here with microphones that I record drums and send them to people over the internet. So there's kind of a few areas in aspects to what I do. So yeah, so that's the quick version of my drumming life.
Well, thank you, man. That's really interesting. One of the questions from before that I didn't paste in the chat just now was did you grow up in Saskatoon and what schools did you go to? Ah, yeah, bubbly. All right.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I got the orange. I think. I don't know. I think it's the orange. Yeah. I went to elementary school. The first school I went to was Hugh Cairns. And then I went to Roland Michener. And then high school I went to Evan Hardy, which at the time had an amazing music program there. I don't know what it's like now, but I mean, as music programs go, it depends on the teachers and everything and the how long they've been there. But at the time, I was really lucky to go to Evan Hardy because there were a lot of really talented students, but also the program there was really good. So I went
Would have been
there.
Brian Unverricht at the time, right?
Yeah, Brian Unverricht and Bob Fedoric.
Oh, right. Yeah, and Russ Ramsden for the musical.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I remember the musicals were so fun because the productions were great on the acting side and theater side, but the pit band was really good too. Like there were really good um, musicians that were playing in it, and everybody had great instruction. So it ended up being a lot of fun.
You guys did Godspell, right?
Yeah, Godspell. What's the one with the plant that eats?
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, that one, Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah,
we did that at Bowman 2 years ago.
So. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great one. That one was a lot of fun. That one stood out in terms of the music. I really enjoyed playing on that one. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much for answering that. It was really cool to see how it's like, you went to schools that literally you could, walk to from your current location right now. And, now you're a full-time professional here. We have two more questions for you. One of them is posted in the chat, and it was crowdsourced from the entire class, of which there are, I think we have 32 people in here right now. Not all of them sign into the Zoom meetings because it's it's at night and that's just kind of crazy. But the one that was the most common is in this chat. Can you see that, Cop?
Yeah, I can go in here and check it out. Can everyone see the comment or the question, or should I read it out? Or
yeah, go ahead and read it out.
Okay. So in general, how does one exactly become a professional in the music industry? There are lots of people that are really good at playing instruments, but how about the probability of making or of a person making it his or her full-time job? So that's a good question. I think that so somebody who works professionally, obviously you're doing it because they're making a living off of what they're doing. So there's it's like your job. So I think that somebody who does something professionally, like especially musicians, this is something that I've kind of it took quite a bit of time to realize how important this is. But I think the difference between a professional and somebody who does it as a hobby is that somebody who's doing it professionally, they treat it like a business, and they have kind of an entrepreneurial. You have to have an entrepreneurial kind of mentality, because it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're in the arts, you're a painter or a musician or it basically comes down to like your own business. And so you have to learn how to network with people and market yourself. And so that could be like, online on Instagram or, TikTok or, so if somebody who's doing it professionally is trying to work on other aspects other than just their playing of the instrument, which is tough enough, but you also kind of have to think about your business side of how you're going to make it like your full-time job or a part-time kind of thing. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just having that business probably mentality.
I think the common thread on this question, which we've asked of Jillian and you and Dave Anderson and Will McGrunan, has been it's quite important to diversify your income portfolio. which is a big fancy way of saying make sure the paychecks come in from more than one place, or ideally more than 4 or 7 or 9.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I can't remember where I heard this. I think it was at Grant McEwen in a music business class or something. But somebody who was a professional musician came in and they said that um, it's, especially nowadays, it's important to have, like, treat your income, if you're going to be a professional musician or whatever, to have, like, think about your income or your as a chair, so your chair, you can't have a chair with one leg on it. It's not, you're going to fall over. Two legs. So you have 3 or 4 legs on a chair. So you're in your income. So you teach, and maybe you perform, or you also write music, or you're recording music. That's kind of the more common now than it used to be. I think before you could find people that, were just like one thing, but now people are more diverse. They have more skill sets, and that gives you a better chance at making it a professional thing, and making it a full-time job. It's yeah, I'd agree with that. It's pretty important to be diverse.
I think that's a sort of like a strange new reality in the life of musician, is that you must be a creator, a performer, a teacher, a recording artist, a business manager, and a video editor, and that's the baseline entry point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it sounds daunting, and like it is, like there are a lot of things to it, but it's also kind of fun too. Like if you're a creative person, like for myself, like I started like making videos for YouTube and Instagram. I didn't know I really liked video editing, and once I got into it, I was like, well, I really enjoy this. This is fun. So
Just a side point here, I showed them the videos from the stuff we did at Amigos. Did you edit all of that?
I I did. So like the camera,
Wow.
the camera was I think it was just basically one shot. But I mean, in terms of the music, I mixed the music for that. So that was an example there. That was actually a lot of fun. And it took a lot of work, but it's also I really enjoyed doing it at the same time. So um and there's like and I haven't experimented with this, but I think if I know some professional musicians and people in the creative world, they actually they can get to you if you get to a certain point where maybe you're so busy, or you're occupied, your attention's on other things, you can hire people out to help you. There's other professionals in terms of video editing, or prepping your mix sessions for mixing music. You can hire people just even online to kind of sustain sustain your business. So but if you can do, the more you can do, the better, I think, because you're just building your skill set. So, and you might discover something that you like that you didn't know you liked. So
It's an interesting kind of balance. Oh, Emmanuel just posted one in the chat there. I'll get to that in a second. It's an interesting balance because you know, nobody really gets into music from a young age because it's a good business opportunity. Because it might be a career path. I mean, like maybe the outside few might, but once you get there, it's kind of this interesting struggle between I love doing what I'm doing, and also I have to do what I love to do because that's the bread on the table. As opposed to, oh, now my job is done and now I can go, play my instrument and enjoy myself, and I don't care if it turns into anything. Excuse me. It's an interesting kind of psychological experience when the thing that you love to do is also you're obligated to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
It's
also a privilege to have the thing that you love to do be your source of income, because
a-
that almost never happens in all of human history. But
absolutely. Yeah. It's like you should, I mean, to pursue what you love to do is a privilege. And, um, I think a lot of people that kind of like get into, like being, an entrepreneur or running their own business, there's, they love doing it. There's a passion there, and there's kind of, a separation between your personal life and your business life that, can be a bit of a struggle. I know I struggle with this sometimes. Um, separating your work from your business, because if you don't do that, you can run into things like burnout, and then you can start to actually kind of not like the thing that you used to love. So, that's not good. And you want to avoid that as much as possible. So, you need to be aware of kind of, you're doing what you love, but also don't run yourself into the ground, and treat it as, a thing that you love doing, but take your breaks. Maybe you have to take a holiday once in a while, and almost maybe set business hours for yourself, and, just so you can sustain yourself for the long term.
now more than ever during the pandemic, where folks are working from home, and then home is the office, and office is the home, and it's all kind of muddled. So strange. Okay, Emmanuel, I like your question. It needs some refining, because music agency is a term that I'm not certain I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean, but instead of hashing out what that question might mean, I'm going to refine that for you and perhaps answer it myself in a different session. But so yeah. Apologies, Emmanuel, but that's going to need a little bit of workshopping before it can get the answer that I think you want. But instead, I'm going to move on to our last question here. I must admit, this is a little bit personally motivated, because I was mentioning to the folks in the meeting both this week and last that although Kyle and I are professional colleagues, we don't really hang out socially. Can you confirm?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can confirm.
Which, by the way, I don't understand why, but it
I've
doesn't matter. My point is that we've not discussed this question or had the opportunity to discuss this question. Rather, we've been busy having rehearsals, playing gigs, signing contracts, cashing checks from time to time,
Yeah.
and that. So this is something that I've been meaning to ask you, and it goes kind of with our theme of career opportunities, employment opportunities, educational opportunities post high school, post university with music in Saskatoon.
Sure.
So I had a bit of a revelation a while ago when I went to visit my mom in Vancouver, who I hadn't seen in a darn long time, and I said, "Let's go to a music venue. Let's go hang out at a jazz club." And she said, "There aren't any." And I was like, "Okay, so you just don't know the scene. I'll go look it up myself." And then I went to look it up myself and realized, oh my God, she's right. There aren't any. And we were able to list as a class like over 20 music venues in Saskatoon pre-pandemic. Just on the east side, and we didn't even touch the west side.
Hmm.
And that speaks kind of volumes about like the scene in Saskatoon, and how it's able to kind of like be a sustainable profession for somebody. So anyway, on to the question. In my objective opinion, like, I've not heard a drummer of your capability live in my life. Outside of like Abe Laboriel Jr. with Paul McCartney and
Oh man, he's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, he is awesome. And
Yeah.
and my point is that like I revere you as one of the best that is.
Oh,
And,
well, thanks, man.
and that's coming from me as like some idiot guitar teacher from Saskatoon. But like the level of stuff that I've heard you do, even when you're not trying, blows my mind. And from being an avid live music consumer and creator, it makes zero sense to me why your home base is Saskatoon and not a giant center.
Mm.
Like you could easily New York, L.A., anywhere. You have the chops, you have the ability, um, and I'm so thankful that you're here in Saskatoon. Really, I am, and a lot of other people are. Um, so unless this answer is super personal and it's none of our business, I'd really like to hear your angle on why Saskatoon is the place to do what you're doing at the level at which you're doing it. And I will accept no humble answers. This man is godlike in his abilities. And I have nothing to gain from overstating that. I really believe that. I know I don't believe it. My believies. No, it's true. He's
Okay.
unbelievable. So, why are you here? And
Well, I
yeah,
didn't want to stop you from talking all that great stuff there. That's not, thanks, man. But that's so. I guess you kind of when you were talking about the music venues. So that's I've heard other people mention that that Saskatoon has for the size of city, we have outstanding music community here. There's so many good musicians and places to play. Um, Big cities, I mean, Vancouver for one, like I've known a few people move to Vancouver that are from Saskatoon that are musicians, and they find it almost harder to play there because not only are there like less places to play, but it's tougher. There's more people, so it's harder as a new person to network and break into a new
yeah,
community. Um, but so the fact that like I like as a drummer, I can make uh like a living as a drummer in Saskatoon is pretty crazy. So if you were to do that in a bigger city, and I've investigated Toronto. I was planning on moving to Toronto for a while, and I went there a few times and checked it out. You have to kind of think, and this is something I didn't realize, but like you kind of have to think about kind of what lifestyle you want, and that depends on where you live. So in Toronto, it's a bigger city, more expensive for sure. So the reality there is that maybe you have to get a few roommates, like three or even four, and you're going to be living in a house with four people, and it's also going to you have to consider what you do and what your network is like there. So if you don't know any people and you're in a bigger city, it's going to take a few years to kind of establish yourself to be able to make a living. So um, when you're young, that's the time to do that. And you totally should if that's what you want to do. There's a lot of benefits to living in a bigger city. But what I found is that I was in Saskatoon and I had a network here and I was already kind of making a living doing it. And I this is my personal preference. I didn't want to live in a house with five other people. And I mean, I've had roommates before, but I just I just kind of didn't there were some lifestyle things that I didn't want. Where in Saskatoon, like I'm in a whole house to myself, and I have all my drum stuff here, and I can teach out of it, and it's pretty nice. Um so those are probably the biggest factors of that. I think that it's not like one city is better than the other. I think they just have different opportunities, and there's like pros and cons to living somewhere and not living somewhere. And you know, and you can, it just depends on what your personality is and like kind of what you're looking for. And that's why people move cities too, to see what kind of, you know, what it's like. And sometimes the pandemic is a good example. Like Toronto, and Brett, you know the same musicians that I do that moved there, and some of them have moved back to Saskatoon. And the city of Toronto is not the music behemoth it was before the pandemic. It's actually kind of the opposite right now. So you know, that's an extreme example, but like, you know, it just depends on, like, you know, there aren't a lot of people flocking to Toronto right now because of that reason. So it's good for Saskatoon because, you know, there's more musicians here than you know, that have moved back. So so that's a good question too, but I guess that would be my personal answer to that.
Um, that's a great answer. I think if I can kind of make a metaphor with that, and I don't mean to name drop, but I used to do sound for Barn Dog,
Mm.
and they had the contract at Louis, and the band Stars were doing a show there, and I was doing monitors for them. And I managed to, you know, get backstage, and they happened to be one of my favorite bands at the time. And Tori Campbell, lead singer. You guys remember that video I showed you, Elevator Love Letter? Yeah. So I managed to, like, get into the side for a second, ask him some questions, and I think I was in fourth year university, maybe fifth year, I can't remember. And I was trying to make career decisions. I was like, should I move to Montreal? Should I move to Toronto? Like, should I try to make a go of this? And he's like, from what I've seen in this city, amount of times I've been through it, I would choose to be the big fish in a small pond as opposed to be the small fish in a giant pond. And that pretty much made the decision for me. I don't know if that statement rings true to you or not, but I think, you know, we're kind of doing the same sort of thing, although you are light years ahead of anything I'm ever going to be.
No, man, well, you're another example, Brett. Like you like you could move anywhere, and you know, like it's totally in an option right there. So I mean,
I wasn't fishing for compliments here. I'm saying,
yeah, but like the way, like, you described it like being a big fish in a small pond.
yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I, I think there are definitely benefits to being a small fish in a big pond. Like that's where you're gonna learn the most. That's where you're kind of gonna grow. And like, just, you know, but in terms of like you know, having like security and like comfort and like that's totally, and if you know, like that's totally, that statement rings true for Saskatoon for sure. Like I I find it hard to think about leaving because of that reason. Like it's pretty good, you know, here. We have a good music scene. It's a nice city, and so it makes it harder to leave. And so, but yeah, I would agree with that statement. That's a good one.
Last thing before I put a pin in this, because these folks have been around for an hour now, and that's a lot of attention span for during the summer when it's still nice outside. What do you see the music scene in Saskatoon being like post pandemic? Are we going to bounce back? Is it going to be a mess? Is it going to be half of both?
I think it's gonna bounce back better. It's gonna be better than ever. That's what I think. I think people have been stuck inside, and you know, we didn't have a jazz festival last year. I think people are just itching to go play, and I think it'll be back to normal. You know, if not better. I think there's just going to be people that have spent a lot of time in quarantine
Yeah.
this past year writing music, you know, thinking of other, you know, like somebody, a musician called me up, like, and was asking me about, they were going to start like a pop-up jam session in the city, and they're asking me if I'd be interested, and I was like, yeah, that'd be really fun. There's not that probably wouldn't have been started unless somebody had the time to kind of think and plan for it. So
Right.
I think that'll be it'll be back in full swing for sure, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been missing playing, but also just going around the city and like the jazz festival, that'd be happening. That should be happening right now. It usually does, like around this time of the year. That's always been like, it feels like the official start to summer once Jazz Fest hits, and just walking around the city and like hearing the music and everybody's in a good mood. It just kind of, I'm looking forward to that again.
Yep, August 7th to 15th, correct?
Yeah, that's what
That's
what
later
I've
than
heard
it's
too.
ever been, and it's all local, only
Yeah.
outdoor concerts.
Are they going to have the Bez Gardens? Is that kind of the plan? The big stage?
I think the Bez Gardens is. Did you do any of those last year?
I did. Yeah, I did. I think it's 2.
So
I think I did 2. Yeah.
That it's not going to be like the Roots ain't coming.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They're not
But
gonna have big ticket events. They're going to have like local, and it's just a big small beer garden sort of thing. Anyway, I digress.
Cool.
We could discuss jazz festival stuff for a long time after this. I didn't even introduce everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Luca with the blue headphones. They are the school's valedictorian for this year, just announced today.
Oh, nice.
Matthew with the Hamburglar shirt is an immaculate beat producer who has been doing a lot of awesome stuff with FL Studio and creating music. Getting a high school credit for making beats in your room during a pandemic. Damn, taking advantage of the opportunity.
Oh, man. I wish. That would have been awesome.
Emmanuel is a piano player and a guitarist, and has been contributing a lot. It's kind of interesting. In a high school, usually there's like a lot of acoustic stuff, and you hear the band room door open, you can hear stuff coming out, whatever. The only sounds that are coming out of any room is Emmanuel playing the piano in Mr. Lysak's room at lunch hour. That's like the only music you hear. Everything else is in the headphones in my studio, right? So he's done a large part of creating some cool mood and aesthetic throughout the building. So anyway, these dudes are all awesome. This has been a long session. I'm going to bid you all good night. Kyle, if you could stick around for a second, do a bit of a post-mortem. And guys, I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll continue with the sharing sessions. I really want to do a 90s session because nobody has done 90s stuff yet. We all picked 80s, 70s.
Okay. 90s. Okay, I'll
no Nirvana because we already did a Nirvana unit. Cool?
Okay, but I want to do the Gorillas.
Yes.
But their first song wasn't released till like 2000.
Well, then do Blur because Blur turned into the Gorillas.
Oh, yeah!
There you go.
Did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Same band.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, it's raining. Anybody hear rain?
It's storming outside.
I was looking at my screen and I could see the lightning through my window curtains, and I hate thunder so much, and I can hear it through my headphones, and I'm like freaking out.
All right. Hey, friendly reminder, Luca, you've been out in the sun all day. Go pour some water into that. Go.
Joke's on you. I'm gonna go stand in the rain.
Perfect. All right. I bid you all farewell. Void's out.
Void's out. Adios. Bye-bye.